What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the other side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? And Daniel Acevedo.
And guys, let's get it going.
Yes, sir. So please continue to tune in. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion. Thursdays, we have usually Ask a CISSP. Last week, I had to put up a throwback, which was actually a really good episode. We went way back, season 1, episode 5, where we talked about Sunburst and the SolarWinds incident. So that's kind of one of our first major discussions. But it didn't have a lot of views because we didn't have a lot of listeners. So I put it back out there and see how it does. And then Friday's everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. And this week's Thursday episode, to go back, it's Chelsea Pierre. So that interview will go up this week. And then I have another one next week with Jada. So that one's also really good. So definitely continue to tune in throughout. We have a lot of really good discussions and topics. It's just like this one, right? So without further ado, I'll give it to Shannon.
You said Jada. I was like, Jada Kiss, the rapper? He said, Simon? Man, one of my favorite guys. No, funny. This one comes from apnews.com, and it's titled, What We Know About the Shooting of an Uber Driver in Ohio and the Scam Surrounding It. So the reason we're going to discuss this is because of the scam that what it kind of delves into a little bit is using social media to try to scam people out of money, right? So the way that they say this went down is in Ohio, there was someone that was calling this elderly gentleman, which are usually the targets for these types of things, right? He was 81 years old, I think it was. So he may not have been that tech savvy or whatever, but they were telling him there was a relative that was in trouble, and they were trying to get $12,000 out of him, right? So because of this, like he's talking on the phone with somebody, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going to send somebody for this money, to do this, that, and the third, just hand it off to him." And he's a little suspicious, right? Because when this Uber driver, what's going on in the background is someone else is getting this Uber driver to show up to the house to pick up this package, which I didn't even know that was a thing. So I don't use Uber, Lyft, or anything like that. I didn't even know they did like package deliveries like this, because like in my mind, so maybe it's just where I come from. Like this is how the drug dealers are going to get around everything, right? Like they're just like, hey, you can't. I imagine you're not looking at the package, right? You're not opening the package up. They're just like, hey, take this from here to here, right? And Uber is one of those services Uber or Lyft is one of those that's just recognized, in the States as something that's just, it's whatever, right? Like back in the day when we were young, remember they told us not to get in the car with strangers? We willfully do it now. We pay them for the privilege. You know what I'm saying? It's just kind of weird. That's how the world has turned. But I didn't even know Uber did this as a thing, as they would just take packages and deliver them to another place. But neither here nor there. What ends up happening is this woman, she picks up the I don't know if you call it a fare for Uber, but she signs up to do this delivery and shows up at this house, and this gentleman comes out with a gun. So again, if he knew there was something wrong with what was going on, because the fact that he pulled a gun on this woman, he knew in his mind something was up, right? Like, so this 81-year-old gentleman is a part of this scam. He knows something's not right. He probably should have, written down the number from the people that called him, called the police or somebody, right? To be like, hey, something is going on here that does not seem right, because we know that is the case. And unfortunately, this woman lost her life because of this, right? And there was no violence on her part, right? So it's not like nobody can make an excuse where, even though nobody was there, they can't say this is a Trayvon incident, Mike Brown, nothing like that, right? They have it, like there's video of this because she had a camera. I believe it was in her car, right? Was in her Uber that was
showing. It's a dash cam
in her Uber, right? So it shows some of this interaction, right? So I'm like, we got to do. I think we just got to do a better job of, and I don't know how we can, to be honest with you, of educating the elderly generation on these types of things, and how not to take these extreme measures, because. And I know I may seem a little insensitive, but I mean, the way he went about this and how it ended could have been avoided, right? Like there's something in him that wanted to go forward the way that he did as well, right? And I don't know what that is. I'm not going to pretend to know what was going through this gentleman's mind. But this is what we try to get people to look out for, these scams that target the elderly, because continuously elderly people are getting targeted with things like this, whether it be phishing, you know what I mean, or getting these calls like this. And it's just whoever, if they find out who did this, they deserve the jail time, right? They deserve murder charges, you know what I mean, along with this gentleman. It shouldn't just be him paying for this. They need to be able to pay for it as well. Because in the article, like, I had heard about this, but the article that was sent out that we're doing this on, it went into a lot more detail about what was going on and how police showed up and actually talked to the person on the other end of the phone, like things of that nature. And the person on the other end tried to say they're a police officer, if I read that right?
Yep,
And
that's
then they were
correct.
like, well, I'm also a detective, you know what I mean? Then they were like, uh-oh, jig is up, you know what I mean? And then hung up the phone,
Yeah.
right? Which I guess for the younger audience, this is a phone. Like, you may not know this, right? We used to put them on receivers on the thing, but for you now, it's just this, just click the button. Yeah, it's we got to do a better job of making them aware of what's going on here, man. Because stuff like this is just too tragic. You know what I mean? Based off something that they were just trying to get money from, and someone lost their life, right? So, Daniel, what's your thoughts on this?
No, it's sad. It's horrible. I had an elderly father. He passed away a couple years ago. He was in his 90s, right? My mom, she's in her 70s, later 70s. And this is something I talked to my personal family. They're all older, right? So this is something I always bring up to them. Hey, if you get an email or call, doesn't make sense, don't engage, call me right away, text you right away. And they've been really good at that. They've sent me emails. Hey, like, look at this. Doesn't look good. I try to educate them about, email addresses. If it's coming from these domains, or like hover over the links, that low level, easy stuff to kind of pick up real fast. But, there's a reason why phishing, all these forms of scams that require a click or you just to pick up the phone are so popular because they're very easy, low cost, high reward, right? For criminals. And this is kind of like the apex of what one of these things could be, right? It's the first time I've ever seen where they usually want like gift cards or wire transfers or, now Venmo or PayPal, all this kind of stuff. They don't want human interaction. It's the first one I've seen where they sent someone to get like cold hard cash to get delivered to them because there's a trail. So I don't know. You usually wouldn't want that, right? You don't want any reciprocity, like anything coming back to you. So it's super sad, but I think what's horrifying is that this is only going to get worse with the AI right now and the duplication of, just taking a picture, being able to make a video of somebody and using a voice. You have your voice recorded, which is not great for us. We're doing podcasts. Now they have more information and more data sets so they can use a likeness of you to do these kind of attempts and attacks. They can send you like a video to your phone, like, hey, it's me. I'm out here waiting for you. Or, hey, I'm in jail. I need help. These are going to get even more sophisticated. Like what I'm doing with my family and what I'm going to teach my kids is like, hey, we're going to have a code word, right? If you ever get a phone call from me or you get a video or something like that, it doesn't seem right and it's me. If you call me back or reach out or I don't mention the code word in what I'm sending you, don't engage. It's not me. Call me right away. And if you can't get a hold of me, go find your mom. Both of you figure it out with the authorities until you can reach me, right? But don't go knee-jerk reaction and go to the first thing what this person's asking for. And I think that's kind of really important. The next step in cyber grooming is this kind of thing, because this is going to be, I'm telling you, 10 years from now, people are just going to get like videos of themselves or their family members asking for money because it's going to happen. Unfortunately, this is kind of like what we're going on day to day now. 81 years old, he gets a phone call. If it was a loved one, things get heated. He wasn't thinking right. It's still no reason to pull a gun on anybody, and the outcome is horrifying, but it's just really tragic. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, definitely. So all that good stuff, right? Like, share, subscribe, everything we normally say, to try to get our subscription numbers up and be able to provide you more services, things of that nature. But yeah, I struggled with whether to bring this up or not. I think this is a really good use case, right? To bring up, to say like, this is what social engineering looks like. This is how it can lead to something being fatal. When we usually talk about these type of things, like, because we've talked about fatalities before, like, people losing their children and things of that nature in hospitals, is usually very faceless. This one has a person intimately attached to it, to include footage of the altercation that led to her demise, which I did not watch. I can't watch those anymore. Like, people get killed on video and stuff like that. Like, it just really does not resonate well with me. But so I talked to my wife about it. I said, hey, do you think like there'll be any backlash or anything like that? Like, I think this is really important for especially older people to know. But like, they're probably not listening to this podcast, right? I don't really believe that's our demographic. But younger people to be able to tell their parents, grandparents, things of that nature, like, hey, be careful when it comes to social engineering scams, because they record people's voices. Like Daniel said, you only need 30 minutes of somebody's voice to make a professional reproduction of that person through AI. And we have hundreds of hours of us talking. So like, who knows what the future is? But now, yeah, AI can take a still image and animate it and add the voice. So it's going to be like, yeah, a decade from now, it's going to be very hard for people to distinguish the difference between the two unless we have counter tools that are just as aggressive, which I don't know if those exist to that extent yet. But I say all that to say, just be careful. Like Daniel hit one I was going to say, like talk to your family, come up with a code word. Like if a person does call you in duress, tell them you call them back. Usually it's just like a bad phishing email. It's like, I need you to take action immediately. So in this case, this gentleman, they asked them to produce $12,000, which is odd. Usually, like Daniel said, it's gift card, it's Bitcoin, it's things that are untraceable. So these people were either amateurs at what they were doing, or they did not care for some reason. And then they implicated the innocent person into it, right? Like, well, two innocent people, but this person losing their life, like that's gonna be a murder charge. Like it has to be. I don't know what's gonna happen to this gentleman because A, he is very much older, right? B, there's never any excuse to this lady was unarmed. She did not pose a threat. She was leaving. And he still shot her like 3 times or something like that while they were scuffling. So he's also going to get wrapped up in this. I just don't know what his sentence will be. I think because of his age and the type of scam, this is going to set a precedent. But this is straight out of a Black Mirror episode. Like, this legitimately was a Black Mirror episode. It was very similar, right? It's a little bit different because it was in the UK. So there's some Americanisms to this, being the Uber, the cash, things of that nature. But they didn't have to think too much further because the scam could have worked had there not been altercation. They would just $12,000 would just arrive to their house. That's crazy, right? So like that leads people to do things that are very malicious when it's a quick payday. Like, who's to say it's not the first time they've done it? Could be that they've been doing it and this is the first time that's led to a death. So now, if they have not been trying to cover their tracks, they're definitely trying to cover them now. And it's weird that they interacted with the detective on the phone as well. It also shows either a sign of being an amateur or that just did not care whatsoever to interact with the detective, saying that they were also a police officer in that regard. So I've heard of other scams where it being gift cards, things of that nature, where they've used samples of people's voices. Like, they'll call a grandparent or something like that and say, hey, I'm in trouble. Don't tell my parents. Just send the money. And then that leads to them being scammed and sending gift cards, things of that nature. But this is the first time I've heard of cash, because they said that when they walked in the house, he had $12,000 on the table. Like, he was prepared to give the money to this person, and then he decided, like, no, I'm going to take action to my own hands, as opposed to calling the police. Which they probably told him not to call the police, because then, X will happen or Y will happen. Or in this case, they say, I am the police, which, why are you giving the cops money? So there's a lot to be discovered in this, but I definitely wanted to bring it up because it is becoming a vicious social engineering scheme that's just ever evolving. So now it's going from the phone calls to soon it'll be a person's voice, which I have heard samples of that, which is crazy to me. Like, your son calls you and says, I need money. But that's why you need, a code word or a phrase or I'll call you back type situation. Because they're getting more sophisticated using people's social networking pages against them, right? Their social media against them to make these elaborate schemes to eke out the money. And if it's a foreign entity, they might have all day to do this, right? Like saying that that's their job to make it happen. So who's to say what the future holds? But I definitely wanted to hit this episode up and put it out there so people could be careful. Like, my heart goes out to the Lo-Letha Hall's family. I think I'm pronouncing that right, because she was also retired. She's a pillar of the community, and this is just a side hustle that she had going on with the Uber deliveries. And that's unfortunate that people were put in these situations. Like complete bystander, all she was just told go pick up a package. And then, she loses her life. I don't even know what the thumbnail should be for this, to be honest with you, because I don't know how to be respectful to this situation, because it's so crazy, and like basically two people lost their lives. Like, Lo-Letha Hall lost her life forever, and then the gentleman who is now in jail, like the rest of his life is
Yeah.
It's
He's going to
gone.
lose his freedom. He's going to lose his freedom for sure.
Yeah.
yeah.
So can I ask? I'm going to ask you guys something real quick. I know we're butting up against it with the time and everything, but do you think that maybe these cyber criminals now, maybe they're doing this because they think maybe Uber or Lyft or whatever is going to fight any type of release of records? Because we've seen this in the past, right?
Yeah.
When it came to Apple, when it's come to Microsoft, when it's come to Google, they're like, okay, I see you have this warrant or whatever, but this is why we're fighting it, because we have to take care of this, that, and the third, whether it be privacy reasons or whatever. Maybe their thinking is that they're not going to give up those records because they don't want something out there, something specific to Uber. They don't want to be put in the hands of law enforcement and they're getting out.
Yeah, I think, Ryan kind of alluded like amateurism, and the more I'm reading this article now and we're talking about it, the fact that the gentleman had the $12,000 at his disposal and it's in residence, it might be somebody that knew the old man.
Close to him, right? Because they knew the money was there.
That's kind of crazy that he would have that disposition to have that kind of money. He must have had it in his house. That means, right? You can't just withdraw $12,000 like that from a bank. So I almost think it looks like it was maybe somebody underage that thought, hey, this is an easy thing to do. This person doesn't know, this type of scam. It'll be easy to flip him to get the money. They thought it was going to like go smoothly, and it's like kind of the opposite. It went like as bad as possible. So yeah, it's just tragic. And I think you hit the nail on the head with the like Uber not disclosing that stuff. I think that's a thing. But most people that work in this world wouldn't go out doing this scam this way. I haven't seen a case like this, and I may be wrong. Maybe I haven't read enough of them, but it's usually like send me Bitcoin. And like the gift card thing is like very common, right? Even like places like Target and Walmart and these places have put in regulations where if someone's trying to buy multiple gift cards at once, there's like a script now they read or they ask them, hey, why are you doing this? Because that scam has become so common to kind of counteract that, right? For little protections for people in those cases. So this is kind of out of the norm.
That could be forcing the pivot, is because they are doing different things.
Yeah, it's true.
So yeah, I don't know, but hopefully they do disclose and they do get these people, because like again, I don't know if this is their first or like maybe they had multiple of these going out. Like who's to say it's not an entire enterprise? So it needs to be shut down immediately, and then figure out some kind of protections, especially with the package to pick up and delivery and stuff like that. Like now you see how bad this can go. So maybe that's not a service you offer anymore, or you put.
They're going to change that. Yeah, they're definitely going to change that up. They have to.
Yeah, but again, shout out to her family. Our condolences. Hopefully, like this will lead to changes, and whether it be regulatory or just practices in general, to ensure this doesn't happen again. Because it's very tragic and it's completely unnecessary. Like this did not have to happen, especially the way it unfolded. So, with that being said, please continue to tune in to the podcast, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Hit us up by the social media presence that we have. So I'm at RyRy Security Guy. That's RYRY Security Guy. You can find me on LinkedIn, Clubhouse, Twitter, Threads, Instagram. And you, Daniel, where can I find you?
Just hit me up on LinkedIn. Let's network. Let me help you however I can. Reach out to us.
There it is. Stay safe. Stay secure.